Round 15 of the 2023 ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. It's a double-header in London for the final 2 rounds of the season. Very much looking forward to seeing what is going to happen here this weekend, with 4 drivers still mathematically within the title fight, but realistically it's a 2-horse race between Jake Dennis and Nick Cassidy at the front to see who is going to be crowned as the 2023 World Champion. Well, a very good morning. My name is Tom Brooks. Alongside me, Dario Franchitti here to guide you through the action this morning for Free Practice 2. Dario, Free Practice 1 here yesterday. We saw Nissan fastest with Norman Nato. What are we expecting here for Free Practice 2 ahead of qualifying later on?
Yeah, this is when you've really got to get all your ducks in a row, because you've got to do that, not just that one lap in qualifying, but you've got to get through to group and then do it all again with a higher power setting.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to have a look at the calendar for 2023 and see where we've been over the course of this season in 2023 so far. So we kicked off the season at Mexico City. We've been over to Diriyah in Saudi Arabia, then we were over to India, South Africa, Brazil, Germany, Monaco, Indonesia, the USA, Italy just a couple of weeks ago, and that all culminates with the final 2 rounds of the 2023 season here at the ExCeL in London. Well, here are the drivers. They are getting themselves ready to go out on track. As I said, 4 mathematically in the equation for this one. Pascal Wehrlein being one of them. You've got Mitch Evans in the mix as well. He's coming off the back of a difficult end to his weekend in Rome just a couple of weeks ago. Nick Cassidy feeling quite relaxed ahead of this weekend, but the pressure is most certainly on this man here, Jake Dennis, the British driver. Will he be able to claim his first ever Formula E world title this weekend? Well, here are the championship standings coming into this one. It's Jake Dennis's really to lose. A 24-point swing he has over Nick Cassidy at the top of the order. Some 20 points adrift of Cassidy is the other Kiwi, Mitch Evans, and then Pascal Wehrlein in 4th. John Verne in 5th place ahead of Max Günther. Then you've got Antonio Felix da Costa, Sebastian Buemi with Sam Bird, and then of course the fastest man from Free Practice 1 yesterday, Norman Nato in 10th place. Reigning world champion Stoffel van Dorn in 11th ahead of Jake Hughes. Then you've got Rene Rast, Sesha Fanistraz, Ronald Mortara, Lucas de Grassi, Andre Lotterer, Dan Titum, Sergio Santacamera, Nico Müller, Ollie Rowland, and then Robert Frines. Well, let's have a look at the team standings as well. It's a bit closer in terms of the mix here for this one. You can see Envision there, not too far ahead of Tag Heuer Porsche. Then you've got Jaguar TCS Racing in the mix, as well as Avalanche Andretti. And then the Maserati MSG team a little bit further down. Neil McLaren and Nissan not too far adrift of one another in the standings as well. And here is the circuit here ahead of round 15 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. It's the only indoor-outdoor track on the 2023 calendar here at the ExCeL Centre in London. You can see there 2.09 kilometres, 20 turns in total. You come down the start-finish straight into the 90-degree left of turn 1 and turn 2. It's really tight and twisty in the first couple of corners. You burst into the daylight out of turn 7 and turn 8. Then you come down this long back straight in towards turn 10 and 11, a passing opportunity for some of the drivers. You go left and then right again, and as you come in towards these ever-decreasing right-handers into turn 16, that's where the attack mode is going to be activated for the drivers. Up the rise through the hill, last couple of corners on the track, and that completes a lap of the London circuit here. It's a bit of a unique one here on the calendar, Dario.
Yeah, absolutely. The indoor-outdoor aspect cannot be overlooked. Getting the balance working on that very sticky sandpaper-like surface indoors and then getting it working on the outdoor surface, it's not very easy.
No, absolutely. You can see there 28 degrees track temperature, 18 degrees air temperature. Spots of rain through there this morning, and you can see here as well the track a little bit wet on the outside parts of the circuit.
That changes everything. I mean, really, that's all that stuff we're saying about getting all your ducks in a row. That gets thrown right out the window now, because this is a completely different set of track conditions.
Well, this is Sebastian Buemi, and we were just talking before we came on air, back in season 3 at Montreal for the doubleheader. He was leading by 10 points coming into that one, qualified second in Superpole, but had a crash in free practice, and that kind of began his downfall, really.
It was a very odd set of circumstances. He caught the wall, very similar chicane actually to that we have here in 10, 11, 12, 13, and he just caught the wall and really the big old crash. I think he concussed himself, honestly. I think it was that big an impact. But then he absolutely melted down at one point in pit lane, and it was then Lucas de Grassi came through, won the championship. But, it just shows that every second you're in the car, it can all turn around. It doesn't matter if it's practice, it doesn't matter you're qualifying, whatever. There's always consequences.
Absolutely. Well, the drivers now heading out onto track ahead of free practice 2. 30-minute session for them here. You can see the indoor-outdoor circuit. Of course, indoors, it's not going to be wet. On the outer parts of the track, where there is a bit of water, where it's rained earlier on this morning, that's going to be a very interesting set of circumstances for the drivers. Here's the man, though, with a lot of pressure on his shoulders. Jake Dennis, 24 points is the advantage he has coming into this weekend. Needs 30 at the end of today. And we've got Roger Griffiths on the left-hand side, but Michael Andretti, the Avalanche Andretti chairman, and the CEO there in the middle. Wasn't actually originally scheduled to be here this weekend, but with Dennis, of course, in the title fight, decided to make the trip over, support his team, support his driver, and we'll see what the upshot is going to be here for this weekend. But a lot of pressure on Dennis's shoulders here in London.
Yeah, I won a championship with that group in shot. The Andretti boys, my first IndyCar championship was with Mike, and Roger Griffiths was working at Honda at the time, in charge of the engine department. So we sort of were reminiscing a little bit yesterday, Roger and I, just how to win a championship. And you know, it's critical that they help Jake Dennis to through this next couple of days, just to just do what he's been doing all season to get him in position to win this championship.
Yeah, you can see they're coming out of the outside of the circuit, back to the inside. This is the final sector of the lap. Let's ride on board here with Jake Dennis as he winds himself up for a bit of a flying lap here at this one then. And he's just getting a bit of heat into his tyres. Of course, the race controllers you saw with the graphic on screen just a few moments ago have declared this one a wet track. Down in towards turn 1 and turn 2, this is a real pinch point when it comes into racing, isn't it?
This is going to be interesting on the first lap. Absolutely right, we saw accidents the whole time. But look at the surface change right there, Tom, and then steeply downhill, and it just all the time different. I mean, look at the spray there, there's just different surfaces, different grip levels, different feedback from the car. And then there's a good chance it's going to be dry for qualifying. So all this is, it's not for nothing, but you're certainly not getting all that information you want.
I was going to say, that's the interesting thing, isn't it? Because, of course, we had a dry free practice here yesterday. The fastest time was a 1:10.765 from Norman Nato. Times are going to be, you would imagine, a lot slower than that this morning because the track is a little bit wet. But what valuable data will they be able to bring back to their team?
Unless it rains this afternoon or tomorrow. Not a lot. I hate to say it. I mean, even energy targets, all that's gone out the window because you're not on the throttle anywhere near as much. You know, even taking attack mode, the amount of time it takes to go on the outside line, it's very minimal. Unless we face these conditions this afternoon or in qualifying a bit later on. But this man here, Jake Dennis, he was not happy with the car yesterday. He said, I think he was talking about understeer through. On the street parts, the outdoor parts, they'll have changed the setup overnight, the mechanical setup of the car, and probably the diffs, all the different parts of the car they can change on the electronic systems, the brake-by-wire. But you can't really test it in these conditions. Look at Casti just moving the wheel. He's just trying to feel out the grip level. He's just saying, okay, how much when he turns the wheel, how much grip do I have there? How much have I got available? Because the last thing any of these guys want to do right now is stick the car in the wall, because then chances actually getting the car out for qualifying are minimal.
Well, you can see the car moving around a lot. He was locking the rears almost, it looked like, going in towards turn 16. But just talk us through this track here, Dario, because it is a real unique one on the calendar, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And you see this surface we talk about, the sandpaper surface, as he comes down, brakes into turn 1 very late. The exit of turn 1 actually is the apex of 2, all the way out to the left-hand side. Back across to the right, got to set up again for 4. This all flows into one corner into the next, and immediately surface change again, outdoors into 5, down the hill. Less grip here. Now you're going to get into the parts of the circuit that are wet. 6, 7, 8. Coming up to 9. There's a dip right as you turn into turn 9. And then it's this long straight. And then the race this afternoon, I think, will be slipstreaming down here, trying to save as much energy as possible. Fairly heavy braking. Right, left. There's some curbs there, but just watch into 12, 13. No curb in 13. The wall is your apex. Very easy to make a mistake. 14, 15. These are not easy in the wet. The car is moving around a lot through there. Even in the dry yesterday, the guy said that. Braking for 16 just looks very low grip. New surface there. Track is a different shape than it was last year due to all this construction you see at the XL. 17, 18 up the hill. So careful on the throttle. He's got a bit of traffic ahead of him. Into 19. Over the runners for the doors. This is the last corner, turn 20. Back to throttle, best traction you're going to have all season due to this surface. Cassidy goes quickest at a 17.1, so 7 seconds off the dry pace from yesterday.
Yeah, fair way adrift of where we were yesterday. That's Sylvain Philippi on the right-hand side of your picture, team principal for Envision. As we mentioned, Nick Cassidy still trailing by 24 points in the championship over Jake Dennis, but Envision leading the team standings.
And the team standing, that's what pays the money. That's what pays the prize money at the end of the year. It's not about driver positions, it's about the team's position. And Envision, as a customer team, really very, very good. Them in first, Andretti in fourth in the team's championship. It's very, very impressive. Andretti with the Porsche powertrain, Envision with the Jaguar.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was a weekend of two halves, really, wasn't it, for Envision last weekend, a couple of weeks ago, I should say, rather, at Rome, because, well, Nick Cassidy on the podium in round 13 on Saturday, round 14 on Sunday, he was into the back of Mitch Evans. This is Robin Frines getting it wrong earlier on in the lap. That's down at turn 10 and 11. That's the Custom House chicane, just doing a bit of a pirouette, getting the car righted. We saw a real lack of adhesion going into that corner, and thankfully he was able to keep it out of harm's way, get the car turned round. Thomas Biermeyer there watching on, really sort of wondering what they're going to be able to have to do to turn their season around. Abt Cupra have been not really at the races, but for Nico Muller's performance in round 13 at Rome last time out.
Yeah, I think the Mahindra powertrain has really struggled, hasn't it? We've seen the works team, as it were, and we've seen the Abt Cupra guys just really struggle with that in all kinds of situations, and they were looking to try and regroup as much as they can over the winter within the the regulations of what you can change over the winter. Look at, you can just see how much steering input Mitch Evans is putting in the Jaguar. There's just not a great deal of grip out there. Now watch what happens as he goes into the indoor part with this heavy grip surface. See how much quicker, much more speed he's able to carry, how much more responsive the car is.
It's a really lovely surface, actually. I was watching the land speed record that we had the other day here with the Gem Beta car, and you just walk the track and feel the difference on your foot, can't you? Like, stay with the sandpaper, almost like surface on the indoor part of it, and then the tarmac on the outside. It's incredibly different. So yeah, it is going to be a really circuit of two halves, and that of course amplified by the wet surface that we're dealing with. Lap times coming down, as you would begin to expect now, as drivers get a little bit more comfortable with the surface, but a really good driver's eye view here from Sebastian Buemi. Comes through the right-hander, rises his way over the hill. The track narrows actually going into the final sector here, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, absolutely. And you can hear just the wheel spin up the hill. It's one of the great things about the Gen 3 car, just that extra power, again, just more even than Gen 2 car. And they're harder to drive, and they're harder to control the throttle, even with the clever systems that they've got that limit wheel spin and that help them on brakes.
Keep pushing sectors 1 and 2. We'll be boxing. Practice attack 2.
So yeah, that just made the cars more of a handful, and I love it. I love seeing the drivers just have more and more of a challenge. I'm sure there's times they wish it wasn't quite as challenging, but for us watching, it's superb.
And it's the first time here, of course, on Hankook tyres as well, so that's going to be, again, another variable to add into the mix. You've got a wet circuit, you've got indoor-outdoor track, you've got a reprofiled middle to final sector as well, and then you've got new tyres to contend with.
Yeah, I think that will be the biggest worry for the Hankook team, is this indoor high grip surface. What is that going to do to our tyres? Are they going to work? I'm sure they're very confident in their product. It's been a great product all throughout the season, but this is a complete unknown. They'll have never seen a surface like this before, and it's just, I can't say it enough, so abrasive that it's definitely unlike, I'm sure, any challenge they've seen before.
See René Rast just coming across the timing line, fastest overall in the third sector, goes up to fourth quickest at the timing line. Different livery, new livery, unique livery on the Neon McLaren here this weekend, as Ian James, the team principal, watches on. Designed by AI in conjunction with that, and onto his left, Zach Brown as well. So you've got Michael Andretti over at Andretti and Zach Brown at McLaren.
We've got the big hitters there this weekend, haven't we? Zach's is here yesterday, today, and then he's off to Spa for the Formula 1 race tomorrow. So he's a busy man.
Hey, speaking of washouts, though, the weather there doesn't look too kosher either.
It really doesn't, does it? Oh, Dan Tickton, let's see what he does here.
Clatters the curbs.
Massive commitment from this man. I think if he can qualify close to the front today, a big result is possible for Dan Tickton with just the nature of this track, the nature of the race we're going to see.
Yeah, he's made it into the duels on a good few occasions, has Dan Tickton this year. Really has been pushing the limits of that Neo car, and there are a few rumours floating around. Will we maybe see Daniel Kvyat in that seat next year? But it looks like, from what I've been reading, that they're going to stay with an unchanged lineup of Tickton and Seti Camara.
I don't know why you'd change. I think there's bigger problems. I think that if any of the performance deficiencies are probably due to the powertrain and that kind of thing, and work hard on that. You've got a young lineup, a punchy lineup, and if you give them a slightly more efficient car, I think we'll see some really good results from them.
It'll be interesting to see how things develop for that team over into 2024. Just running on board here with Lucas Di Grassi. Podium for him has been the highlight of the season. That was back in Mexico City at the start of the year. But Mahindra, they suffered all sorts of software issues back in Rome. Di Grassi stopped on track a couple of times, ended up in the wall in one of the races as well. And Mahindra have just had a very challenging 2023, is probably putting it quite polite. And that's Roberto Merri making life a little bit more difficult down into 10 and 11 as well.
Actually good to practice that in case it does happen in the race. You want to get that thing turned around as quickly as you possibly can. Yeah, you're absolutely right with the Mahindra guys. Very, very tough season for them. And you see Fred Bertrand there. He's had a baptism of fire this season. They will turn things around. They've got a lot of smart people on that team, including Lucas Di Grassi. He's a very clever racing driver, a lot of experience too. So he'll be helping to guide them to try and improve things and get ready for next season.
Yeah, he was very disappointed actually on Tuesday here, because that's when we had the indoor land speed record taking place. He was up against Jake Hughes in a duel, and it looked as though Di Grassi was going to do it because all of his practice runs were faster. He got a bit too much oversteer out the final corner, and as such he ended up about 1 kilometre an hour slower than Hughes, with Hughes ending up being the driver that claims that world record.
Hughes was really happy about it, wasn't he?
Very unexpected, I think. Really surprised about the fact that he did it, because I was stood next to him actually whilst he was talking to the team up here, and he said, "Oh, do you know, I'm not sure. Oh, Lucas is, talking the big game, and it looks like he's got, a lot of confidence. He's been scoping out and thinking too much." Jake just said, "Oh, I just went around the final corner, floored the throttle, and saw what happened."
Sometimes simple is best. Max Günther on board with him right now. I mean, at the start of the season, you just look, and that man in the middle, James Rossiter. They just had a most horrendous start to the season, but they've definitely turned things around now. And for the win, podiums, and Max Günther, I think, without putting too fine a point on it, I think he saved his Formula E career with these performances in the latter half of this season, because it was unbelievably tough early on.
Yeah, it was touch and go as to whether he was going to be lining up with that team next year. Again, a few rumours about their driver lineup for the 2024 season, but it looks as though they are going to remain unchanged with Edo Mortara and Max Günther. But still, of course, things can change.
No, I need something in between for the outside. Not full wet, but not full dry.
Probably talking more the brake-by-wire systems, the traction control more than maybe mechanical. Just trying you're trying to limit the locking and braking, the wheel spin on acceleration, but that is critical. You've got it dialed into the grip level available. And this surface in turn 16 does look very slippery. It's nice and new, but maybe the oils are coming up through.
I was going to say greasy is the word I would use to describe that. It doesn't look particularly nice to drive on in terms of the grip levels. Verline goes to the top of the order, by the way, with just over 15 minutes remaining. René Rast in second, Edo Mortara in third. Track now beginning to dry out, lap times beginning to come down. We're now down into the 1:14.4s, but we're still, what's that, about 4 seconds or so off the pace that we had here yesterday. Looking in terms of the weather, don't think it's going to rain for the remainder of today, but there's certainly on the cards for tomorrow here.
I was about to get my phone out and check the app to see what it has been very changeable, hasn't it? I walking in this morning with that rain, I thought, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
This is...
That's Sergio Sette camera, isn't it?
Precision right there, wasn't it?
Yeah, spot on. That's about as close to the wall as you want to get, flirting with the edge of the track limits there.
The trick is to hitting the wall, is you've got to hit it square. If you hit it with a bit of angle, a bit of yaw in the car, that's what tends to break toe links or bend the suspension. If you actually hit it completely flat, sometimes you can get away with it.
That's your IndyCar experience going to the fore there, isn't it?
Yeah, that's just generally lack of precision experience, I think. Tommaso Volpe there, he's got to be happy with what he saw yesterday.
Yeah, Nissan looking quite good actually here this weekend. Norman Nato quickest yesterday. Sasha Fenestraz just going to the top of the pile. Fenestraz, of course, in his rookie season. Norman Nato on the podium, though, last time out in Rome. That's his and Nissan's first podium of the 2023 season. They've had a a tough campaign this year, but looking like they're heading down in the right direction as the season comes to its conclusion.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's definitely looking good for them and preparing for next season. But again, we've seen even race to race, when all you can change is software and car setup, mechanical setup, how much we've seen the balance of power shift.
A few conversations going on here in the Andretti garage between Roger Griffiths and Michael Andretti. Penny for their thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, right now you see Jake Dennis 19th quickest. I wouldn't be too concerned. To me at this point, he's just gone quickest. There you go. It's more about the way the car feels. And are you happy that you can convert in qualifying next up? That's important. You see Buemi now, and every lap is just going to be quick. I mean, Buemi's 8/10 up the road with that lap, and yeah, because you can't, as we said, you can't read too much into lap times. Jake Dennis got a bit wide in turn 7. It sounded like somebody hit the wall there.
Yeah, I wonder if it was just bottoming out on the car coming down the slope almost.
If that was him or a car ahead having a little.
Yeah, just up the road you've got one of the McLarens at the moment, and they're just making their way through turn 12 and 13. And now has a bit of clear air in front of there.
Jake Hughes ahead.
Yeah. This is a fantastic shot, actually, just giving you an idea of just how bumpy it is on some parts of the circuits. So this is where attack mode is going to be activated here, Dario. This is where the track has been reprofiled. General sort of feedback after free practice 1. The drivers seeming to prefer the flow of the circuit in the final sector.
Yeah, it definitely flows better. It's got, I think 17 is going to have a potential for overtaking. Last year it was a lovely series to drive and you had to sort of hit the curb just right to flow the speed through. This looks maybe a more natural layout, shall we say, and I think, yeah, the drivers, if somebody takes attack mode, you're going to see some side-by-side stuff.
Cool this lap. It's purple sector 2 and 3.
So cool this lap then for Jake Dennis. That's just setting him to sort of go on a bit of a wind down, essentially, isn't it?
Yeah, cool everything off, cool the tyres off. Let's see if we're going to go and have another one. Sam Bird made a mistake on one of his laps yesterday, got traffic on the other. It'd be nice to see Sam get a decent result. He got some traffic.
Yeah. Just a bit of traffic with the Envision in the way. I think that might have been Buemi just up the road.
Sometimes you can't buy a break, and I think Sam's in that situation right now. It's just nice to see him have a good couple of results this weekend to end his season on a high.
Yeah, he has had a challenging 2023. Couple of run-ins with his teammate Mitch Evans. Really good qualifying pace though. We saw that in Rome last weekend, and then of course ending up in the wall in spectacular fashion, causing what was one of the biggest accidents in Formula E history.
Yeah, if not the biggest. And the incidents with Sam and Mitch, it was not malicious. It wasn't two teammates trying to prove that they're the team leader, whatever. It was just mistakes, and I think we're seeing more and more of this type of mistake though, because the cars are running so closely together with this slipstream style racing that when the car in front brakes just a fraction harder than you thought they were going to, there's no margin for error. You just run into the back of them, and that's why I think we're seeing that. There's no time to react to a change in pace from the car in front, that more than you were expecting.
Well, if you Sam Bird as well, it looks like he is going to be moving on to pastures new for next season of Formula E. What do you think is going to be going through his mind? Of course, he's got Mitch Evans third in the championship. Do you think he'll be thinking about playing that team game, or is he going to be sort of going and thinking more in a selfish manner?
I think if Sam can help Mitch, he definitely will. Yeah, I think that's the way he works, and I think he'll want to. Let's be honest, we think he's pretty sure he's leaving. I'm sure he wants to leave on the best terms possible and help the team to have the best result they can, both in the drivers with Mitch and in the team's championship.
Yeah, word on the street that it's going to be Nick Cassidy going over to take the vacant seat for an all-New Zealand lineup at Jaguar for season 10. This is on board here with Jean-Eric Vergne just coming out of the final corner. Hand off the wheel as he comes to the timing line down in towards turn 1. Oh, he's going to run straight on.
I was going to say, I could watch his predicted right in the middle of the green bit, and it was getting better and better. I was like, oh, he gained 2/10 on the braking zone. But he didn't make the corner. I had to have that taken off my car.
Yeah.
Because I'd get so excited when it was going the right way. So I literally never raced and never had a predicted on the dash.
Oliver Turvey, he's been a man who's sat on the sidelines for 2023. He'd love to get himself back into a race seat, but the thing is, there's a lot of drivers, not a lot of seats available.
Do you think he does, or do you think he's now maybe gone towards that team management role? Because he's perfect for it, the way his brain works, his his organisational skills, all that stuff, I think he could be really, and has proved to be a bonus for the DS Penske team. But I think he'll maybe go more towards that direction. I might be wrong,
but you could see him doing a D'Ambrosio, for example, going from driver into team manager role.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think he's. I think that's what he's probably doing.
Well, he spent several years, of course, as a test driver for McLaren, and his feedback has always been very highly rated as a driver. Here's inside the Envision team. First for Buemi, 11th for Nick Cassidy as it stands with just over 9 minutes now remaining. Norman Nato improves with his personal best time, up into second quickest. Just looking here at the Porsche of Pascal Wehrlein. Really strong start to his season, kind of from the midpoint really. The wheels has fallen off his wagon. He's still within mathematical chance of claiming the championship here this weekend, but from a realistic point of view, unless everything else falls by the wayside, he's definitely the outside chance.
Yeah, he is. The difference, I mean, he's been fairly consistent, but it's those 7th, 10th place finishes where you've got Jake Dennis sort of 2, 3, 2, 2, 2, 4, 1, you know, and Nick Cassidy's in there with him just trading blow for blow in those podium finishes. And Pascal with those outside reaches of the top 10 finishes, it's just not good enough to challenge for the championship.
So we're 8 minutes now left in the session here, Dario. Track is beginning to dry up kind of quite nicely in some areas. Still looking a little bit greasy down here in towards turn 16. This, of course, is where we'd normally see some fast runs coming in at the end of FP2. But what do you think the teams, drivers, etc., are going to be doing now for the end of this session?
Every lap now, every time it's a bit drier. They're just learning more, and they're learning that on bigger portions of the track every lap. So there's bits that are not going to be fully dry, but you're going to have much more of an idea. And obviously in group qualifying, it's not just about one lap. You got to do multiple laps, so you'll have a chance to warm up. And then obviously the duels, it's a whole different ball of wax. You turn up to 350 kilowatts, and you got to go.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out. Mitch Evans currently quickest there, and he's led for final free practice 4 times this season. Will he be able to make it a 5th time? He's just over half a second ahead. Here is the reigning champion, Stoffel Vandoorne. Speaking of drivers who haven't been able to particularly get their season going, Vandoorne, well, to say he's had a challenging 2023 would be a bit of an understatement. He's down in 11th in the championship standings, and has failed to finish on the podium all season. So not the way he'll have wanted his title defence to have gone.
No, absolutely. A lot of change over the winter for Stoffel, but it's just so competitive. You know, if you're just one slight step behind, you're nowhere. And we're talking about you having a challenging year. The difference in any racing between success and failure is absolutely minuscule.
Let's have a look at Sasha Fenestraz. This is just going down towards turn 16.
Well held.
Very nice.
Yeah.
10 points for the effort. We'll see some judges with placards at the side of the track perhaps there.
Yeah, exactly. He definitely found the limit.
Oh yeah, full on Tokyo drift style there. Lovely from Sasha Fenestraz.
The boss doesn't look too happy though.
Yeah, sliding his way on those Hankooks through. Here is Andre Lotterer. Looks like he's going to be also on to pastures new for season 10 as well.
I mean, Andre, factory Porsche driver in World Endurance Championship, and I think he'll focus on that next year. He's really had a tough season. He missed a couple of races, obviously, as well, due to the Le Mans Test Day. But I think he'll focus more on that. He's still absolutely world class. As speaking of world class, Nick Cassidy has just gone quickest of anybody.
Yeah, I was chatting down to Sam Smith, a journalist for the race earlier on, before we started free practice, and he said the thing is Jake has done a lot of PR. Jake Dennis, this is, just looking at him in the garage, a lot of PR over the last couple of days. He said Nick Cassidy rather has done next to nothing. He seems just within his demeanour a lot more relaxed. Do you think that's going to help him coming into this stage?
No, I mean, you've got to, as a driver, be able to switch off. But the team's also got to protect the drivers and not just flog them to death with PR stuff and allow him to focus with his engineers on the job at hand. But remember, Nick Cassidy is a multiple champion in Japan, Super Formula, Super GT, very difficult championship. So he knows how to win championships. He's been in this situation so many times before at a similar level to this. You've got to say, Jake, this is new to him, but I have continually every week been so impressed with him.
Makes us slightly ahead of sequence, but still current run plan. So out push, cool down 350.
You heard it all. I mean, the level of communication between team and driver and team in Formula E is like nothing I've ever seen.
it's quite incredible, isn't it? You have to, from what I can understand, be multitasking about 4 or 5 different things at once, essentially.
Well, absolutely, and that doesn't even go into pulling paddles on the steering wheel at the bottom of the wheel that we can't see, with regen, changing settings all the time. It's just non-stop. Hear the car bottoming out through the kinks.
Just coming down in towards turn 16. This is where the attack mode will be activated in the race. Just getting his way through.
And listen when you're watching today at home. Listen to the noise changing of the motor. Look for subtle sort of almost misfires and subtle vibrations, and that's when all the clever systems are helping the drivers to stop wheel spin, to avoid locking wheels and braking.
Pascal Wehrlein, licensed to thrill at the top of his halo this weekend. And he goes to the top of the pile. What about Antonio Felix da Costa, his teammate? Goes 4th quickest. So Porsche's looking pretty handy here in the final stages of free practice 2. Hankook tyres there just being checked over. With a few minutes left of this session. Only one driver in the pits at the moment, that's Jean-Eric Vergne. Here's his teammate Stoffel van Dorn on a personal best lap. 6th quickest for Van Dorn. Would love to give himself and the DS Penske team something to smile about coming to the end of the season. He goes up to 4th fastest, only free practice. Nick Cassidy looking like he's pretty handy here in the final stages of the sessions. You begin to expect a little bit of traffic in the form of René Rast just up the road. Cassidy still goes top by just over 0.3 of a second there for Nick Cassidy, so looking pretty handy here.
The first thing that any driver does is you come and you look at the timesheet, and if you're Jake Dennis, Nick Cassidy, Mitch Evans, you're looking at those 2 other championship contenders as soon as you get in.
All about Sam Burr then here. He was
missed the corner.
Yeah, just gone a little bit wide there, hasn't he, into 19. It cost him a little bit of time. 17th quickest for him. Despite that mistake, he goes up to 10th. So that cost him a few tenths of a second there, actually.
Dan Ticktum, P2. 3/10 back from Nick Cassidy, though.
Lovely stuff from Dan Ticktum.
James Barclay not looking too thrilled at the moment. He's a bit of pressure.
I can imagine that there is. Yeah, Jaguar, of course, with a fair bit of pressure, still within a chance of that team's championship.
Michael Andretti, he's dealt with pressure as team owner, driver, and he's been there, seen it, done it. Sylvain Philippe, he's been so impressive as team principal at Envision. And James Rossiter, he's had a baptism of fire, but he's dealt with it ever so well. Mid-season, I think he was thinking, what have I done?
Well, there's no grey hairs appearing on the top of his head just yet.
I think he might be dying at this point. Because, trust me, if there is, he's earned it.
Bit of the old just for men going on. For James
all
Rossiter.
these team principals, Tommaso Volpe there, you see these guys, the board are putting pressure on them. They're going to the board saying, hey, we need more money to go faster. The board are saying, you need better results. And there's just there's pressure for every single person in that pit lane.
Yeah, it seems like it's a constant sort of adaptation, doesn't it? And I suppose, is that a thing that as a customer team, when you don't have the pressure of a manufacturer on you?
It's a very good point. You don't have the pressure of the manufacturer, but you have the pressure of the sponsors, the investors. So everybody's got a boss, right? And these bosses want to win. And it's how you deal with that, how you sort of focus the troops.
Got a yellow flag out. That's down at turn 16. Double yellow flag, as a matter of fact. That's down where the attack zone is activated. We saw Sasha Fenestraz going a little bit sideways there earlier on.
Yellow at 15 too, so it's quite. If it's been it might be quite a lengthy accident. If there's debris.
Ah, that's why. Oh dear, that I'm afraid is Robin Frines in the App Cupra, who's gone off into the barrier at the end of FP2. It's greasy down into there. We've seen a few drivers getting it wrong, and given the fact that there's a yellow at 15 as well, I assume that's because obviously it's a bit of a blind entry going into 16.
Yeah, absolutely the right decision. They've gone red flag now.
So that'll be a session coming to an end then with just over 30 seconds on the clock. The timer will count down. Let's see if we can piece together what happened here for the Dutchman.
Hey everybody, this is Race Control. We've got a car in the Tech Pro at turn 16.
Oh, lost the back.
I apologize for the red flag. There was no other choice for that high-speed area. Obviously, the session will not restart. The session will not restart.
It just snapped on him, didn't it, going in?
Yeah.
Straight into the wall on the outside, and then a secondary impact into the Tech Pro. That the voice you heard there was Scott Elkin, race director. He's got a direct communication with all the drivers.
He's got a thankless job. He really has. He's trying to corral 22 crazy drivers, 11 team principals, endless opportunities for mayhem.
Yeah, well, the session then does come to a conclusion. It'll be Nick Cassidy, who was the quickest driver at the end of free practice 2 from Dan Ticktum and then Sebastian Buemi. So the two Envisions inside the top 3. Jake Dennis, championship leader, down there in 5th place. But you wonder what his thoughts are going to be coming into the session, knowing that his nearest rival in the championship was some half a second quicker than him at the end of free practice 2. I know the track was wet. I know it's a bit of an anomaly, but still, from a driver's point of view, you want to be at the top of the order, don't you?
Every time. Every time. Is it much for just your sort of mental well-being going into qualifying?
40,000 seat capacity here at the XL this weekend, sold out as well. Great to see the fans all flocking in to the XL circuit, and well, a very unique venue. Loads of things to be able to do here for all of the family as well, and really is a fantastic weekend as Robert Fry's
driving it back.
Yeah, car's crabbing away like a good one though.
He's definitely, both left sides will need repaired in time for qualifying.
So no practice starts then due to the recovery.
You can see the foam and the crash structure in the nose.
Yeah, the sensor by the looks of things hanging off just by the left front wheel as well. Good that he was able to get the car back and going and back to the pit lane there, but a bit of a repair job for the Abt Cupra team to do ahead of qualifying here this afternoon.
Yeah.
Looks like he's done the rear as well, because I think he had an impact on the rear left. Going into the wall there. Andre Lotter and Jake Dennis just in the pit lane. Bit of team radio earlier from Dennis.
Way too much rotation, turns 1, 2, 3. I feel like braking systems are fine, it's just DMC. I still feel like the systems pull the rear around too much at turns 1. I just need a bit of rhythm through 1, 2, 3, like the car's just awkward to drive.
Yeah, understood. Roman's on it.
And again, that's the high grip part of the track. He's just saying the rear is, the front's almost too good, so they'll work on that.
Well, let's have a look at the results then ahead of, after free practice 2, I should say, for round 15 of the London E-Prix. Nick Cassidy ends atop the order ahead of Dan Ticktum and Sebastian Buemi, the two Envisions inside the top 3. Then you've got Pascal Wehrlein in the Porsche ahead of championship leader Jake Dennis. Mitch Evans in 6th ahead of Sergio Sette Camara. So the two Neos doing really well in that damp second free practice session ahead of Andre Lotterer, Stoffel Van Dorn, the reigning champion, and then Lucas Di Grassi. Norman Nato, quickest man from FP1 yesterday, just ahead of Antonio Felix da Costa. The two Neon McLarens with a bit of work to do down in 13th and 15th respectively, ahead of Sam Bird, Max Günther. Robin Fries we saw ending the session in the wall, bringing out the red flag. He though finished in 18th ahead of Edo Mortara, Jean-Eric Byrne, Roberto Meri, and then Sasha Fenestraz in the other Nissan. So fair bit of work for Nissan to do despite looking strong after free practice 1. Well then, at the end of free practice 2, these are your top 3 drivers. Envision looking pretty strong at the end of that section there, Dario.
You've got to say that's got to give him some confidence going into qualifying. See this man, Dan Ticktum, attacking. He's going to be attacking like crazy in qualifying coming up, as they all are, but he just seems to push just that little bit more. And there's Nick Cassidy, championship contender, and he knows he's got to have a big day. He can't control what happens to Jake Dennis. He's just got to go out and win this race.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's see what the Kiwi is like in terms of his body language down there in pit lane after possession. Looking pretty calm and relaxed. As you said, he's been in this position a good few times.
If I'm in his position, I'm not showing anybody any emotion.
You don't need to follow me. It's like, you don't need to follow me. It's okay. It must get tiring.
I would not be showing anybody anything that's going on in my head. Don't, good or bad, don't show the opposition anything. Don't give them anything to work with.
Keep your cards close to your chest. Here's Jake Dennis. Had a chance at the title back in 2021 when Andretti was then known as the factory BMW team. It was his rookie season, though didn't go so well for him when he had a break-by-wire failure in Berlin. And this is his first real chance at the championship.
He's been a revelation since he's come to Formula E. It was kind of a left field hire when they did it. I've said it many times, but my old teammate Scott Dixon did a race with him in GT cars in Australia, and he said, watch this guy. He said he's mega, and Scott doesn't really give out compliments too much, but Jake Dennis absolutely been box office since he's come to Formula E.
Yeah, looking pretty calm and relaxed as he wanders down pit lane. 5th quickest for Dennis at the end of free practice 2. Let's see what he is going to be able to do when qualifying gets underway here this afternoon at the XL. So in terms of the meaningful data that the teams were able to collate in that session, the track we're expecting to dry out for qualifying. So what do you think they're going to be doing in terms of car setup, how they're going to approach the session?
It very much depends on what they felt, what the drivers felt. We heard Jake Dennis talk about the turns 1, 2 and 3, the indoor section. They can certainly fix that. They're going to have to go back to yesterday's information on the outdoor stuff too. And then they're going to have to wing it a little bit. You know, the car's going to be able to do so much for them, but the drivers are going to have to just get out there and drive around maybe some of the issues.
Well, two Jaguar teammates, Mitch Evans on the right, Sam Bird on the left, just having a bit of a discussion with one another. How's your reading of body language for drivers after?
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Mitch doesn't look, yeah, he's got a bit of oversteer, got a kick of oversteer there. And then drivers always talk with their hands.
Yeah, wonderful stuff for Jaguars. Good to see some support here for Mitch Evans there as well. Some Kiwis in the crowd watching on, and I think a bit of support for Antonio Felix da Costa to her right.
Nick Cassidy too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kiwi, I mean, I have to say, New Zealand drivers are taking over world motorsport. It's been really incredible for such a small country. They've put so many great drivers into the highest echelons of the sport.
Yeah, but only a population of 4 million over in New Zealand. So if you do the percentage ratios compared to that, you know, another nation with a higher population, I imagine that it's the percentage is going to be significantly greater.
Yeah, big time. Edo Mortara there.
Yeah, just looking here at Jake Dennis then at the end of free practice 2, the championship leader with a lot of work to do, needs to get a good qualifying under his belt here this afternoon. Well, let's have a look then, shall we, at some highlights from free practice 2. The green flag was waved as the drivers headed out onto a damp London XL circuit. You can see very greasy offline, a few drivers getting it wrong on a couple of occasions. This was Robin Fries with his first off-track excursion, sadly not the Dutchman's last, but the track did dry out, lap times came down a little bit, but again a few drivers still managed to find the limits of adhesion, and a few also managed to find a bit of traffic here. Sam Burdett just making his way through down in towards the right-hander, and on board we ride there with Jean-Eric Verne. He managed to go off at turn number 1 as well. Meanwhile, Sebastian Buemi, really good pace for him in the Envision car as he came across the timing line to set some quickest laps in sort of the midpoint in the session. This was Sasha Penestraz with a full-on Tokyo Drift style slide in towards turn 16. Managed to keep the car facing in the right direction. 10 points for execution and for effort as well. And then we can see the other drivers making their way through. On board here with former champion Lucas de Grassi as he threaded the eye of a needle down at turns 10 and 11. Then you see turn 12 and 13, the left and then the right-hander. This is where the track began to dry out, looked a lot less greasy. Still some problems though, unfortunately, for other drivers, including Robin Fries, who ended out his session in the barrier with just 30 seconds remaining. Brought out the red flag at the end of it. He clipped the wall going in towards the corner, then had a secondary impact into the Tech Pro barrier. That brought an end to his session, and indeed to everybody else's session here for free practice 2. The red flag was thrown, and that was the end of free practice 2. Qualifying, of course, gets underway here this afternoon as we kick off at 12:40 local time. Well, Jake Dennis then, championship leader, finishes FP2 5th quickest. What do you think's going to be going through his mind now, Dario?
It's all about the details, all about getting the car set up just right for this next qualifying, because these laps could make the difference between winning and losing this championship.
Absolutely could. Well, as I said, qualifying gets underway at 12:40 local time here in London. Join us for the penultimate qualifying session of the season to see who is going to end up on pole.